Good morning! Final day of art battle today with the amazing Daphne Ang. Been lucky enough to talk to her before. So today we'll focus a little bit more on her. Here she is now. Good morning. Focus a bit more. And obviously still more fabulous things about Daphne. Good morning!
Morning. Can you see me?
Yeah. Very good.
Perfect. I can't see myself, but that's fine.
How are you today?
Good, good. I've kind of set up some of my paintings here, and um, wanted to look random, but it does look a bit staged. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about some of them in relation to
Good.
art.
Fantastic. Obviously, I've been lucky enough to chat with you before the whole art battle week came about. So if we can just focus a little bit on your art battle and your online stuff, because I know your canvas arrived. So if we could take it away, how you found out about art battle?
So I think it was in February, just a long time ago now. Alice sent me a message on Instagram and inviting me to participate in the Art Battle London, which was supposed to be yesterday, actually.
I know, I'm so heartbroken.
I know, but hopefully in July, but fingers crossed.
Hopefully.
I think that was in February, so I had the time to think about the concept of painting live, and the fact that one had to make a painting in under 20 minutes in front of a live audience, which I've never done, and just the idea of it scares me. It scared me because I'm not very good with public speaking, but public painting. I mean, it's a performance, but because of the time limit and what you could do within those 20 minutes to make the best works to show off your skills. But so I actually, this art battle concept kind of inspired like a series of works that I've been working on since Alice sent that message. So thank you, art battle. Yeah. Today, yeah. I haven't actually done the art battle online competitions yet, but because I've been waiting for my canvases to arrive, and they've arrived, but I haven't actually filmed them because I was working on something else, writing actually. But yeah, I just wanted to talk about some works that was inspired because of the concept of art battle. So
Fantastic.
so I don't know if anyone who's logged in now, I mean, it was just 20 minutes. You're allowed 20 minutes to make a painting on a 24 by 18 inches canvas, and you can only use acrylic paints. You can't use mechanical tools such as spray cans and what else that is. If you make stencils, you have to make it on the day itself before the competition, and you have to make your paints. You can prepare your paints on the day itself before the competition, but you can't prepare them at home and bring them there, something like that. So it just got me thinking, because my style of working is very long and prolonged. So I would create a painting, and then the first layer, and then probably not like it, and then I'll leave it and then revisit it at a different point, sometimes even ruining it. So I build like layers upon layers, and I usually do glazes over glazes, and slow applications over expressive strokes, for example. But to do something in 20 minutes, and to do a work that you're proud of is something that was a challenge to me. So I decided to experiment with some techniques. So these are some of the products of these experimentations, like some monochrome tones. So painting with a very, very limited palette, a black gesso and thin layer, and then building it up with thick layers progressively. So I mean, these ones, I actually did a video recording of it. It was not 20 minutes; it was about an hour, but it was getting shorter. But I cheated and I used a hairdryer, which I'm not sure we're allowed to use in art battle.
But I'm really excited to hear about it, and I'd also like to talk to you a little bit more once we're in the conversation about the collaboration that you've done recently. Oh, for the life of me, I'm so sad. Sorry, I thought I was so good I'd remember the name of the artist. Where
So
is it?
we're an artistic duo. Our artist name is Alchemy.
Oh,
So
yes. Okay. And I'm very excited to find out a little more about that because I really, really dig them. And it feels very much like you, but very out of this kind of world, very in the middle of the universe. It's really, really beautiful. But yeah, so just a little bit more about the art battle stuff. Finding that you're getting down to an hour though, how does that feel? Like, do you feel that you're getting more confident? Is that practice of sort of getting that on the page helping?
yeah, definitely. I mean, the fact that I had this camera, my phone camera recording, was also an added incentive to stick to the time limit. And I guess theoretically and conceptually, it gives the work an added dimension of being more immediate. And so I mean, I don't plan my paintings. I mean, I might have a brief idea of the compositions of, I mean, because I paint in abstracts. So I'll have something at the back of my eyelids that, you know, form before I create a painting, and then I try to execute it with, I mean, with a brief idea of the color. So I'll choose maybe, I mean, recently I've been working with black, white, gold, and iridescence and interference paint. So I mean, this is all there. So I just make it on the spot. We should make it earlier, but so I experimented with different techniques of wet and wear, or how do you let paint in a way that the layers dry in time for the next layer to go on, and what the effects of putting a certain color over another. So it's what I mean with iridescent paints and interference paints, whereby it's actually mica particles suspended in titanium dioxide, and say for example you have interference blue, and then at different angles it would reflect different intensities, and if you paint it over a white background, the blue would reflect its complementary color, so orange. Yeah, orange. So you know, if you do a little bit over black, it's this myriad of like colors and all these things about color theory that, you know, you just kind of have the wing on the go. So it was a good exercise in making this knowledge a habit, putting it to practice, and making it second nature almost, I think.
Yeah, and I think also when it comes to abstract work, I think people get so dismissive of it because it's like, anyone can do that. But to hear you talk about the color theory is super important in abstract. I find for me the colors that you use when I look through your things, I can feel that type of emotion that, you know, I feel like you were feeling when you were painting it and choosing those. And I think it's so fundamentally important that people understand that abstract is just, it's not just throwing some paint on a thing. You know, there's, like you say, there's not a complete composition, but there's a thought process, and it's as involved for me as someone doing a portrait or a landscape. It's, you know, I watched a lot of my abstract artist friends in school really struggle because a lot of people were like, oh, well, you know, his takes 10 minutes to do, but they don't realize, like, it's because he does that style and he practices that all the time that we can't produce that in 10 minutes, you know. So I think it's great for me to even hear that process and the way you mixed all the different iridescent colors, and so excited about your collaboration, lady. It looks so awesome. It's very, very cool. Okay, so for those that can sort of join into our last one, we're going to keep a kind of basic similar structure, but I think there's also Daphne's YouTube video will be coming out soon, so you can know a little bit more about just sort of the top line stuff we do. But today, if you don't mind to just do a quick introduction, but then I think if we can go into a little bit of your collaboration and some more of the things, I think that would be great.
Okay, yeah. So I was just thinking about it the other day, and I mean, so I'm a self-taught artist, and I started drawing. I started creating art very recently. So actually, I should have brought it here. This is my first drawing that I made, and luckily I wrote the date down. It was the 23rd of November, 2018. So, that was the day I started drawing, and I drew for about a year. So uh, I taught myself the human anatomy. I drew mandalas, sacred geometry. I didn't dare to pick up the paintbrush until much later, actually. It was probably like August last year. Just looking back at the amount of, I mean, looking back at the work that I've created over this time is just quite a humbling and, well, it really charts the journey of my thought process and my emotional journey as a person. But okay, back. Sorry, I'm digressing a little bit. So I was just thinking about how my life in the arts, and I realized that pretty much all of my adult life I've dedicated to the visual arts. Not as an artist, but began as a curator, an art manager, art writer, and then I decided to move to London to study art history at SOAS. So this was 2010. It's 10 years now. So I did a PhD in art history, and in a very academic environment where I taught, I lectured on classical Buddhist architecture of Southeast Asia, that sort of thing, and the batiks of Java. I wrote a PhD on portraiture and photography in the 19th century Singapore. A lot of archival research and talking, basically recreating the lives of artists and photographers that people had forgotten. I've basically dedicated my career to that, to revealing the lives of artists other than myself. So it's come like a long circuitous route from around the art ecosystem, I call it, to where I am today, and where I was just doing some write-ups of some of my works for a submission for an online exhibition. And I was like, oh, this is the first time I'm actually writing from my point of view, from my heart, and it felt really good to be on the other side of the ecosystem, so to speak. But I guess that's also not to say that I mean, I was struggling with. So after I completed my PhD, I was in a state of transition, and I realized that maybe academia was not the right thing for me, because it took a lot of my soul away from me, out of me, and but it was much needed. And now I realize that why and how it has helped, how it everything that all our experiences in life add up to this one moment, and whatever we've learned or experienced, we can use, and we shouldn't forget that. So, for example, like writing about my work and looking at it as a whole, and thinking about what it meant to me retrospectively became a lot easier. I mean, I wouldn't have been able to do that without the very rigorous intellectual training that the PhD gave me. I'm not to say that I'm very intellectual, but it really helps. Now I see it. Now I see the big picture, and I'm glad I did it, and I'm glad this journey brought me here.
Do you feel, because I'm very much quite similar to you, when I start doing something, I quite like to do the real hard work to lay the foundation, and then, if I'm asking you to do something, dude, I did that 3 years ago. Like, you just need to get it done. Like, I really believe in that. And do you feel that in doing the PhD, you're more confident now that you've arrived to being an artist?
I think there are two answers to that, I suppose. So in terms of knowledge, definitely. In terms of understanding the what makes an artwork meaningful or historically significant, for example. And I'm not that I create works to make it historically significant, but all these things in mind, like conservation issues. So I make sure that I do the painting in a way that will last. If I were to sell it in the future, I'll put the proper necessary codes, use the right paints and isolation code, blah, 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 archival standards, proper inventory system and ways to describe and interpret my own work. Because I mean, when I create works, I don't know what they mean because I deal a lot with the unconscious and I draw it out and please put them on the canvas, and it's only after I've created them that when I step back and look at it, and then I find things that I did not intend but realized after. So in terms of the documentary and the curatorial aspects of like looking as an artist on the perspective of the artist, yes, the PhD definitely helped. But I think there were a lot of things that I needed to unlearn as well from the PhD, like the approach to my work. I used to, because it's a lot closer now, me and my paintings, they're basically a reflection of me. But when I was doing my PhD and had my own research, so academics research is like an artist's art, but it's a different relationship. And I always found it very difficult to talk about my research in a way that I would have to read from script or make sure that everything was nicely curated before I delivered it to the academic world. I was very nervous about making mistakes or saying the wrong things, citing wrongly, and so it created a lot of like anxiety, and it took a lot of energy out of me, and I was always on the edge. So I think I at the beginning I took this approach to my work as an academic work into my creative work, and I realized that it's not very unhealthy, and why am I doing this to myself? Like this is straight from my heart. I don't have to rehearse it. I don't have to have a script for it because it should be straight from my heart.
I think I'm glad that you brought that up, because I think a lot of the art teachers and the art world, they have all these rules and they've invented all these great things, and I don't think they mean to kind of sort of drill your creativity out of you a bit. I don't think they intend that. I think they're just sort of trying to give you as much sort of guidance and help. But like you say, when it's real and it's authentic, do you have to have it curated a certain way? Like you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And I feel like those restrictions that you talked about being sort of a great help to you, but also you had to unlearn a lot of things, like a lot of like this one lady I spoke to this week, Nikki, she's a teacher, and she said what she loves is how sort of kids just do it. There's no what color and they just pick up the pen and they go. And I think that there's a lot to be said for, of course, the education part is great, but the environment maybe that they're trying to set you up for is sort of, it's outdated. There's so many new opportunities and ways to develop and learn things. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Check it out.
I'm glad that I did not, go to art school to learn art formally. Not to say that, it is not helpful. I mean, it definitely would help. But because of for the very reason of what you said, I think one has to unlearn a lot of things that we learn in a formal and institutional environment, where we become part of this institutionalized view of what we should produce or what we should become. So in a sense, coming from the other side of the ecosystem and teaching myself the art, how to make art myself, and drawing from the knowledge that I've gained from doing art, being an art historian, and also doing my independent research. I choose what I want to learn, but I made sure I experimented in a variety of things. So, I drew for a whole year first before picking up the paintbrush. I did figurative work, human anatomy before venturing to the abstract. Not because that's the route to take, but it's just the way my the process led me to. So
yeah, it's almost like you want to be able to do what you did, but in a sort of school that facilitates, because I always feel like, we encourage maths and science and blah, 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 but like you also say, there's so many different routes. Like people could have seen you as a figurative artist, and maybe if you were in a school, you might have been pressured to take that route or develop that and, not know anything about abstract art. So for me, it's almost like there needs to be a really free way to introduce people to all these different types of mediums and, give people space to, I don't know, but it seems it's very rigid, and even though it's art and it's all, I find it is very structured, and I don't know, I struggle a little. I hope we evolve a little bit more to like, developing what you really, really like, and obviously having the freedom to move around and try other things. That's super important as well. Oh God, you found out. Oh, I'm very excited.
I think the problem is, we tend to categorize art into isms or styles, and I think that's the problem. We get pigeonholed into a certain type. I mean, I still do draw figures of like nude figures occasionally, like just drawings, when I feel that I'm being sucked into the world of complete formlessness and abstraction, and I need to come down to earth a little bit. So I'll do some drawings of like, human arm, or drawings of figures, or mandalas or whatever. But it's about striking that balance, I suppose. It's not about pigeonholing your work, but I think the importance is to be able to exist on the full spectrum of things, from representation to abstraction, from realism to impression. I mean, all your isms, I probably shouldn't say because I'm just contradicting myself. But yeah, to exist on that full spectrum and to be able to express oneself in different ways, I suppose. I mean, even in using abstract forms, there are different ways of and processes and methods of doing. So, like my layers versus my 20-minute paintings, they convey different emotions and states of being, I suppose.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's very very complicated, but I do feel like the isms and stuff are really to kind of help people who maybe aren't creative to, describe works and do things, but then there's that danger of pigeonholing people into, there's almost like, oh, you've chosen that, now don't you dare move. And when you are an artist, I mean, everything. I did lino cutting yesterday. I want to paint fabric today. I want to do all these different things that I don't necessarily know what I'm doing, but I want to try all these different mediums. I don't want to be thought of only as like a painter or only someone who draws. Like, I want to have that freedom, and I'm just, by your scale, I'm a pretend artist at the moment, so I'm cool. I'm still coloring in with my crayons, and I'm okay with that. Like, I know that I'm learning. But yeah, it would suck to just be like, no, this is the art that you do. And I get it. You have to have a style and to be known and to be commercial. But it's such a like catch-22 for all of those things. It's very strange. The artist world is a very strange world. So yeah. And then if we can talk a little bit about maybe your collaborative stuff that you're working on lately, because I felt like it was honestly, like, I had to double check. I thought it was a photograph of like a planet. There's like seriously blown up ones, and I was like, why is Daphne sharing a planet? Oh, it just looks so spectacular. I'm actually going to just flip my screen around to show you guys on Daphne's Instagram page. So, I mean, this is like, it's so cool, and it looks like this explosion is actually happening like on another planet. It's so, I find, so how is it that you found one another? How do you come up with projects together? Tell us more.
So, just to give a brief background on the material. So that those bumps that you see is actually from a foam, like an expanding foam. That was it's a collaboration with another artist, and that's his style. So he was the one who brought in the texture, and said, "Oh, you know, we should actually collaborate with him bringing in the texture and me bringing in the abstract colors and all that." So it turned out to be a fantastic combination of and synergy between the both of us, because
Fantastic. Honestly, I can't tell you enough how excited I am. Sorry, I'll shut up and let you talk.
No, please, I would love to hear because we haven't spent like the past 2 days writing about the works for submission, so it'd be nice to hear the opinion of someone else, interpretations from them.
I did. I thought, why on earth is this lady putting pictures of planets up? And then I went on your page properly and I was like, oh, it's not a planet. It's amazing. But I do feel extraterrestrial is a bit of a weird word to associate. I feel very ethereal when I look at it. Like, it's like feeling like you're in space, but on Earth. It's a very raw feeling. I can't stop staring at them, so I'm trying desperately to keep. I might just actually go onto another page on my laptop. So I'm like, "Hello, Daphne."
So actually, we inspired quite a lot by images from space, images of telescopic views of Jupiter taken by the NASA's Juno spacecraft, but reimagined as an imaginary cosmos, an exoplanet from our imagination, where we choose the colors and we choose that are not determined by what gases and those things. So it's an imaginary world created on Earth in lockdown. Which I guess
I'm so bored with Earth. You've decided to go out into space. I like that. Earth's a bit weird now. I don't blame you.
Like, what was the Oscar one? I think it's an Oscar one quote. We're all laying in the gutter, but we're staring at the stars, or something like that.
It does. It feels very like, for me, I don't know, like those paintings where you sort of see a girl standing on a cliff, but then there's the whole like Milky Way. And I feel like you say, it's like a whole sort of universe that you guys have created, and it must be amazing to make your own planets. You guys, hey? Making your own planet.
And we did a series called Streams, where it was showing like waterways or like pathways through geological forms or space, like terrain, some terrestrial, some extraterrestrial, and in colors that evoke, complementary colors and a lot of colors as well. But it really makes you feel like you are in this natural but surreal, almost celestial world, like that connects disparate worlds, so to speak. And the one with the puffy mushroom cloud, that one was done just before the outbreak of this damn virus. Yeah, so I don't know. It might have mirrored the sentiments of and the anxieties of what was about to
go down.
Planet.
Right, and how, because I collaborate quite a lot on design work with my sister, and I honestly can say something to her and leave her alone for the evening, and I come downstairs and it's like my brain is on paper, but just a little bit better, like 5% better than I thought it could be, And I find it's incredible because I can literally give her like a reference word, a reference picture, and the collaboration is always, it works out to be so beautiful, and our clients are always really happy. But how was it for you collaborating with another artist? Were you nervous to collaborate with another person, or were you just excited? How did that go for you?
I was really excited, actually. Obviously, of course, there's that the need for balance. But it was not really deliberate as well. It just kind of came naturally, and I guess I'm very lucky to have that connection. And as you are as well, because I think it's really rare. I've never done this in my life. I think it's got to do with the fact that if one is connected with someone else through the psyche, there's, there's a connection that occurs out of our will. So it happens like subconsciously, I guess. And there's always that synergy, suggest something, and then communication in the world of consciousness. There's we discuss and we throw out ideas, and then we test it. If it doesn't work, then try again, or we'll just work on a goal. And having that trust within each other that it's going to be all right. And even if it's not, so what? I guess it's that kind of environment of connection, of true connection in all levels, that makes collaborative work so fulfilling and meaningful. And because I look at my paintings and then I look at our paintings, I see similarities, but there's also this explosive dimension to the ones that's created with someone else. I'm sure you know the feeling.
It's incredible, because I also find, and I don't think it's necessarily people's faults, but a lot of the time people will talk, let's do stuff, let's collaborate, and I'm very much once you say it to me, I'm almost like a bit of a child. I'm like, ooh, don't tell me we're going to Disneyland and then break my heart, because I will be heartbroken. I'm just like a kid like that. So when people, when I'll like follow up the next day, phone them, and they're like, oh, well, I don't really know. And I haven't necessarily found it more in the creative sphere than in life in general, but it is always so key to find someone, because we can all have great ideas and all say and be that great supportive speech, but then when it actually comes down to it, where are you? So it's nice to see when two artists can lend that, like you say, that extra dimension with both your styles coming together. And I think it's such a beautiful subject matter you've created. And lent from, created. It's just great. I think it's fantastic. I really look forward to seeing. Are you applying to an online exhibition with that exhibition now?
Yeah. So someone, this lady approached me on Instagram. I love Instagram for art.
Instagram's great.
If you want to, pump up your Instagram efforts. So it was this online exhibition that it's going to go on for a year. And there's also a separate sale rooms where you could put up other works for sale if you need. So they needed some write-ups. So having to sit back and think about what they meant was also a different dimension of the collaboration, where you had to say, oh, well, what does it mean for us? What did we mean? How did we do it? Do we do this like that? It's to really put that connection into words. I think for me it's easier to put it into the canvas. Words it's much easier now, because thanks to the training, the PhD, but it's still the translation of
to be fair, all of us really appreciate the words behind them. For those of us that like to read things and your thought process, we really appreciate you going through this time. And when you look back on either this or your own artwork in that retrospective, are you ever surprised in uncovering the meaning of some of the stuff?
Yeah, always. And even sometimes, like, I leave my painting, and then my partner, he sees something in it. So, oh my goodness, like, I did not see that before. And one of his works, saw like the mask of the plague doctor, the Venetian mask, and I completely did not see it. So, give him a charcoal pencil and to draw the outline of what he saw, and painted over it. In terms of meaning, like, because I'm very heavily influenced. My work is very influenced by Jungian analytical psychology. So he deals with a lot about the images that come out from the unconscious. So, and all these images are symbols of archetype symbols, that many of which our collective. So it draws from a bank of imagery or symbolism that is shared multiculturally and then universally. So often we find that we're creating all these motifs or using certain types of symmetry to show certain things, and they do mean something. So, like for example, like if it's a circle and it's going inward, it means drawing that one needs to draw inwards into oneself, or if it's outwards, it means one needs to draw outwards into the world, that kind of thing. The meaning of a circle, but I mean, I try not to go too much into extracting the symbolism. But if I see it and it strikes a chord with me, like it's like the instant, yes, okay, this is what I meant. Then there's an authentic, non-objective cognition of the meaning. Then I'll put it in. I won't like look at my glossary of Jungian symbols and okay, that's rebirth. But yeah, if it strikes a, I don't know, that feeling of affirmation. I don't know how to describe it, but yes, that's what it means.
That's very cool. Yeah, because I think like the thread of all of my conversations, we always deal a little bit with our emotions or that negative inner monologue, and it's nice to see that in reflection you can still get some healing from your own work. When you work in a more, I don't even think it's necessarily just in an abstract way. I think we can all, like you say, look at the things we choose to draw, why we're drawing them, that kind of thing. So it's very exciting. Well done. Okay, so really the only thing that I have left to sort of ask you about is just basically, how are you getting on? How are you finding this, like the quicker work that you're doing for art? Like, do you think that it will sort of cross over into your normal stuff that you go through to create a painting?
It definitely has. I mean, I've been working on. I've been trying to get down to 20 minutes, and it's not that I'm obsessed with this 20 minutes thing, but it definitely forced me to explore different ways of painting. I've got it down now to about an hour, but I really wanted to get it down to be much shorter, because I know that so I've been recording, videoing my painting process, and I'm not only for marketing purposes, but so I can look back and see what the decisions I made and what happened. Remember what I did and what worked and what didn't.
Yeah.
It was really quite funny, because sometimes you see like I've created this really nice splatter and the composition is perfect, and then I go ahead and like, do something that then I could cover it and start over again. But I mean, mistakes can actually add, like the Japanese concept of wabi sabi, beauty and imperfections. Yeah, so I mean, I would say just go for it. Just don't hold back, but know when to stop. And I guess this the concept of art battle really did force me to think about that, which was something that I really needed to work on, because I was ruining canvases at an alarming rate at one point.
Yeah, I find that I'm the only one that's too afraid. Like all my friends who I know who are creative or artists, like you say, just go. And then a lot of the time they'll be like, oh, I went too far. I'm still over here like, just touch the paintbrush. I'm like, I'm not going any further than that. And my sister's like, how do you do this? And I'm like, no, I don't want to look at it anymore. Like, I get so panicky about, like you say, that adding and ruining something. So I'm dealing with it slowly, but I'm the only one that seems to be like, no, just 5% enough. Who thinks like that?
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. I wish I some of that, actually.
Everyone's like, oh, I wrote it 5 times ago, and I'm like, I only did it once and I was terrified, so I stopped.
Yeah, no, but yeah, I definitely need to yeah. So I guess it's like we have a spectrum, and then I need to come
Yeah, I'm on
closer
the other.
to meet in the center, I suppose. But yeah,
I'm working. Yeah, I am.
I mean, there's times when I even like started slashing my canvas with a knife. Like this one is one with the like, huge holes. There's a huge hole in it.
Oh, wow.
But yeah, it was me.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I mean, they can be I mean, I don't think there are mistakes. Well, there are mistakes. Well, they're bad decisions, but there are no mistakes in painting, I suppose. There's always a way to create meaning with mistakes. I mean, art shouldn't be about human perfection because it does not exist. Human perfection, but about understanding and putting into presenting art as a whole, wholesome representation of human emotion. Like that we'll have our ups and downs. We can't always exist in a state of ecstasy. We have to come down to the mundane, and we'll have times where we feel like slashing our canvases, and that's fine. Yeah.
100%. Yeah, and what's also amazing is, as an artist, you really can decide when something is done. You know what I mean? Like there's also in 100 years when we're long gone and someone finds one of your paintings and it's, you know, they don't know who it is, they will come up with the most fantastic amount of PhD language to discuss how you were feeling when you did this. And maybe you were just mad because you couldn't get your cup of tea right that day, or like something completely nonsense. But there is also that fantastic world of big, expensive words, and, you know, people will draw from that emotion regardless of when they see your stuff. So it is quite interesting when I, you know, like, because when I speak to artists, once they've done a piece, and I really get to understand, like, why they did it, and then I'll listen to someone selling that artwork. And it is the most fantastic nonsense, because I know the artist. I understand why that foot is not finished, or, you know, and this man's like, well, what he's done here. And the clientele were like, yeah, really? And I was like, wow. Even I was like, really? That's so incredible. And I'm like, no, wait, I know what happened there. So yeah, it's quite exciting. But I love that for you, there is such an emotional response to your art, because I cannot be the only one. Like, I know I can't. There's just such a fantastic way. And like you say, you celebrate all of them, the happy emotions, the sad, the dark, the light. It's
the mundane as well. Let's not forget about that.
The whole spectrum it's really cool, because, you know, and it's even in your collaborative work, it still very much has your style maintained in it, you know, your color palettes or things. There's ways to connect you, which I think is fantastic. And also, guys, when Daphne's other video is already out, sooner than this one, you can see that more about her performance stuff, which we're very excited about in the future, if it happens. And to be fair, I don't really have much else, so check out her Instagram. Everything on Hanway Collective today is featuring Daphne's artwork. And yeah, just
the collaborative Instagram, Alchemy, spelled in a different way. I think I'll write it.
Yeah,
here.
well, I can also get that from you after this, and I'll post it up so you guys can have a little look at the whole duo and support where you can, guys. You know, Daphne has been around for a long time. But yeah, thanks so much, lady. It was an absolute pleasure to talk to you again, and thank you for taking the time. And please keep posting. We're so excited about your universe. It's very cool.
Thank you. Thanks for having me on. I always have fun.
Yes.
All right.
Have a great day, guys. Bye.
Take care. Bye.